All right. Hello, Fight Insight fans, viewers, and listeners. I'm your host, as always, Timmy B. This week, second week in a row, there's been some scheduling issues. So my guest co-host for the day is going to be coming in a little bit later, same as last week. So hopefully my guest co-host makes it before my guest leaves today. But before we start the show, as always, I want to thank my partners over at Magic Mind. Go check out magicmind.com and use code FIGHTINSIGHT20 to save 20% on your order. It stacks. Before we do start the show, I do want to say a shout out, thoughts and prayers to those suffering from the Maui fires. That is a crazy tragedy. I do know that there's a big MMA community in Hawaii. There's a Bellator fighter that we all know, Ilimale McFarlane. She has a fundraiser that is going on. You can actually, I'm going to put the link in the show notes. If you can, if you're able to, whatever you can, put this podcast on pause right now, go over there and support in any way you can. Right now, they've raised up to like $3 million or something like that. That's crazy. But shout out to them and all the people there that are helping support that. Please do that. Now we will get on with the show and I will introduce our guest in 1 second. Here's my normal co-host, Ringside Rain Cruz, with the intro.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fight Insight Podcast.
Our guest today is the founder and CEO of SuckerPunch Entertainment. Established in 2007, it is the most respected and established athlete management and marketing company in all of mixed martial arts, managing the who's who of fighters with champions represented across all major organizations. This man can be seen wherever you go. More than a manager, he seems to be a true friend to the athletes, and so it is an absolute honor to have him here on the show. Everybody, please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Brian Butler.
How you doing, man? Thanks
Hello,
for having
sir.
me.
How are you, Brian?
I'm doing well.
Should I call you Mr. Butler? Brian? Brian, people everywhere, when they heard that you were coming on the podcast, they couldn't believe it. They were the nicest guy. I had nothing but great things come in for you. And it's funny because I think you would give off an air of just being a great guy. There's a podcast network that we're a part of. It's called RageWorks Podcast Network in New York. And the owner of that network said, holy cow, Brian Butler, he's the greatest. And I said, oh, do you know him? He goes, no, but he just seems like the best guy. Just so you know, you have a very good reputation on your hands.
Oh, I mean, that's good to hear. I'm flattering. I'm glad, because a lot of managers don't.
No. And I thought it was funny because on your Instagram, it says, what does it say? It says something which I thought was pretty funny at the bottom of your Instagram, or like on your profile, it says, I'm the one that didn't slither through the grass to get here.
Yeah. When I first got into this sport, I guess I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't realize that it would be so slimy, and that kind of caught me off guard. I almost left the business because of it really early on. But good thing my good friend Jeff Curran kind of convinced me to stay, and ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made from a career standpoint. And I'm happy to be here, and glad to have been able to do it the way that I've wanted to do.
Oh, I think he might have blacked out if he's getting a phone call.
So,
he might have been getting a phone call.
Yeah, and not be and do it, just basically just do what I wanted to and not be shady.
Yeah, no, and so I'll tell you, like normally we ask people, to introduce themselves and who they are and stuff like that. But I think a lot of people generally know SuckerPunch Entertainment in the industry and in the business, right? All around the world you are representing people. With the last few guests that we've had, we like to play a little bit of a game with them. Various games. And so for you, I've got a game. I've got 4 questions. My co-host was supposed to ask you the questions. It would have been funner if she did it. But I'm going to ask you these 4 questions. And these are from your athlete that when they saw that you're coming on the show, they gave me some stuff here, Brian. So
okay, that's cool.
So we'll see what happens here, Brian. The first question, see if you can get this right. Who is the best looking Canadian bantamweight?
Oh, that's Josh Hill.
Josh Hill. There, he is too handsome, this guy. He is he's a former friend and guest of the podcast. Yeah, Josh Hill, he's a cool dude. And I'm very happy to see he represents SuckerPunch now for Canada, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we had a good talk over this last trip, kind of getting him, on the runway for his post-fight career. And he's somebody that I'm proud to have on the team. I've been proud to manage him now for all these years. And I'm looking forward to him, kind of migrating over there when he decides to hang it up.
Yeah. He is still kicking ass over in Bellator. He got screwed on the weekend. That was bull crap. But he's the greatest dude, man. He is a great man. I think that he, you know, for your image and your company, I can say as a Canadian, he represents Canada very well. He is a gentleman in all aspects. Like I said, we've had him on the podcast. He's a great dude. So I really like that matchup. I feel like that's a great fit for you.
Yeah, I agree. I've gotten to know him much better over the last year. Honestly, I feel like he's a good fit for our brand, and he'll represent us well.
So that was something nice that was said about you. And now let me get to the second question here. When asked about you, this man and former guest of the podcast said, "Oh, Butler, he's a good guy. He has made my career so solid. He's more than a manager to me. He is a friend. That guy has been there for me when nobody else was." Who do you think that is?
Whew, gosh, I don't know, man. I mean,
think back to all the Fight and Sight podcasts, all the guys it is Mr. Killer, the Predator.
Oh, yeah,
Mr. Daniel James.
Okay, yeah, Daniel's great. It's weird James. Because I could have felt like that in a couple.
Well, but there you go. See, when Daniel James said that about you, I'm like, well, this is going to be very hard for Brian to guess because, again, that's the image you put out there.
And Daniel's great, man. I tell you what, when you work for someone that is appreciative, that supersedes any amount of money that the person can make. And I tell that to my athletes all the time that your biggest currency is appreciation, and working for someone like Daniel is, he's got that in spades for sure.
No, he is. He's a good man. And hey, if you ever want to set up that Predator versus Predator boxing fight, like he wants on this podcast, he said he wants Ngannou in boxing, set that baby up.
Yeah.
Here's one that maybe is a little bit not as nice. We asked Mr. Hall of Famer Jens Pulver. We asked him for the most embarrassing or funny story about you. What do you think Mr. Jens Pulver said?
Gosh.
What's the worst thing that he knows about you, Brian?
About me or?
Or a story?
I mean, he's not talking about the SpongeBob bathroom, then, is he?
Brian, I'm going to play you his audio recording of what he said, okay? Before you incriminate yourself.
Okay.
Let's see what Mr. Jens Pulver said.
Yeah, I have an entire... No way. Yeah, I can't do that to him. I can't do it. Mr. Butler is... Oh, Brian... Yeah. No, can't. See how I start laughing right now? Shit. Nope. I'm going to let him do his own thing. I love that, man. That's my dude.
He would not sell you down the river. That's...
well, I mean, Jens and I have been through quite a bit together, so I wouldn't know which one story that he would pull out. So
yeah, you can save the SpongeBob story for the next time you're on this podcast, Brian. We'll have that next time.
You'd have to say to him, and he'd know.
He'll know. Here's the last question. We'll see. I feel like you should get this one. This person is a 2-time guest of the Fight and Sight podcast who is impatiently awaiting her second Bellator fight. She wants to know where the hell is her fight, Brian Butler. And
Jenna
also,
Bishop.
Oh, you didn't let me finish the question. It's like a Jeopardy sign-in. It is Jenna Bishop. The last part of the question says, she should have been cast as BJJ Barbie in the Barbie movie. You already said it. Boom. There's Jenna Bishop.
It didn't take many hints. She's definitely on my ass for her next fight. And I'm doing the best I can. Yeah.
So let's get on with the interview there. You know, as a manager, how tough is it when you have fighters that can't get fights? Like I
mean, that's obviously always the stressful part of it. You know, there's the one side of it where they're a prospect and you're trying to get them built up and get them to a big show. And then you think, okay, we got them to a big show. We can breathe for a bit. Then we get them to the big show and nothing changes in their head. The true fighters, they just want to fight. It doesn't matter. So,
right.
Sometimes there are just things that it's just the way that the sport is. Sometimes it comes in droves and sometimes there's times where they're sitting for a bit. And, with the situation with Jenna, there's obviously some things going on right now with Bellator and PFL that have caused some things to kind of slow down.
Confusion for sure.
I wouldn't say it's confusion. I mean, it's just their business behind the scenes. I'm not privy to all of it. I know some of what's going on, but again, it's their business. But I do know how a large transaction like this could be, and I could understand why there could be some holdups on things. So that doesn't help Jenna. That doesn't help a lot of the fighters that are on the roster. But they want to fight, and right now we're looking at getting Jenna back on the
getting Jenna back on the
San Diego card,
which is that Bellator 299 or 300? Or do we know? Who knows? Anyways,
yeah, I've honestly, I've got to look at my spreadsheet, and I can't pull it up right now.
Now, you are a manager, so I mean, like you hear and see things, and like you said, you're trying to get fighters, placed all over the place. In my opinion, and again, I don't know that the world knows that PFL for sure is buying Bellator, but that generally seems like the thing in the air, right? That you're alluding to. It sounds like that's what's going to happen.
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like nobody really knows. So, but that's how.
If they do, and I know you're saying you don't know, or even if you can't say, but if PFL does buy Bellator, do they keep it two separate organizations, or do they merge into one?
Honestly, I wouldn't know. I can't speak on it. I don't know. I'm not going to put anything out there that I'm not sure of. So that's the thing. Nobody really.
I'm saying keep it separate for the simple fact that it gives more people more places to go. Like PFL can't be running 2 events a week. So to me, it's like I'd rather fighters have more options. But
I would agree. I would not want to see Bellator go away. I think Bellator has established its brand, and it's a reputable brand in the sport, and I would hope that it doesn't just go away. But again, I have no insight as to what is going to happen, so we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, and hopefully we will hear Jenna Bishop fight news.
Yes.
Yeah, she's mad.
Oh, I know.
I'd stay away from her if I were you.
she's feisty, but hey, she's going to take it out on the next opponent. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's bad news. Yeah, we love her. Contract stuff. I wanted to touch your brain on this, or pick your brain on this with the Wonder Boy issue, right? I thought that was really funny. So Wonder Boy Thompson makes weight. His opponent does not. He chooses depending on how you look at it, I think intelligently, he says, hey, I'm near the end of my career. I don't want to fight guys that are way overweight, blah, blah, blah. If it's only 3 pounds, well, then cut your 3 pounds. He does some good PR stuff there. Then there's a whole issue about money. And he says, I haven't been paid anything. Now, of course, Dana then kind of comes out and says, hey, this dude gets paid a flat $250,000. So we can't just pay this guy $250,000 for making weight. Dana makes some reference that, hey, we'll negotiate some sort of amount for his fight camp kind of thing, or costs like that, or we'll do something for him, but we're not going to just pay him. Internet dummies are all over the place on this. In your opinion, as a manager, should this be something that's put into the contract perhaps for fighters to say like, hey, if your opponent doesn't make weight, here's a contracted amount we'll pay you, so it doesn't have to be so awkwardly public right now?
I guess so, but I've never really run into the situation like this. So I get, and oftentimes, you're not aware of it until it happens once. You know what I mean? So
right.
I don't know the details of Wonder Boy's contract. I don't know if it's a flat purse or a show and win.
It sounded like it was a flat 250, and that was the problem.
Right. So like I said, I've never run into a situation where I've had an athlete choose to not fight because a fighter was grossly overweight with a flat purse. You know what I mean? There's a lot of different variables there. Usually, what you would think would be that you would get your show purse, but I guess he doesn't have a show purse, so opens up the conversation of figuring out what do we do.
Yeah, and how do you calculate your camp costs? You know what I mean? You're like, well, I ate 3 pieces of chicken that day and 2, right? Like it's got to be some sort of number, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, my thought would be like typically a show and win is half and half. So maybe they give him half of, if he's got a flat purse, maybe they give him half. I don't know. I don't like speaking on other athletes.
Of course, stuff
because I know nothing about what they've got.
Yeah, but in your opinion, 3 pounds as a manager, and you've seen it all the time, 3 pounds. Where do you stand on that? Do you say as a manager, hey, look, man, take the fight. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. You could stub your toe and get an injury.
I'm never going to tell an athlete to take a fight if they're not comfortable and if their coaches aren't comfortable. I always tell the athlete that whatever, they and their coaches decide, that is the route we'll take. Even when it comes to accepting an opponent, I'm not going to, push it there. Nobody knows the athlete better than themselves and the coaches that train them. So if they feel that it's a good matchup and they want to take it, then great. If they feel they want to take the fight, even with the weight miss, then great. If they don't, 3 pounds doesn't sound like much, but if the guy was sweating his ass off and was still 3 pounds off, that suggests that he's going to come back really, really big. So while 3 pounds doesn't sound like a lot, 24 hours later, a hell of a lot. And, I sympathize with the fighter when someone's that far along in their career as well, and they're trying to make sure that they get the longevity out of their career with them and maximize it when they're towards the end of it. Yeah. I could understand being cautious. So, and I think, like I said, I don't know, but I would have assumed that they would have thought like, hey, we did our job, we showed up, we're going to get paid. So maybe that made them help make their decision a little easier. Maybe if there was some, like I said, I don't know what communication happened prior to it. But.
All right, two more quick questions because I know you got to go and I want to rush through. First question, how many people's Twitter passwords do you have and how often do you tweet on behalf of fighters?
I actually do not tweet on behalf of any of my fighters.
That's the right answer, Brian.
Yeah.
Do not do that. Too many people are accused of that, so I'm happy for that. Next question, very quickly, is, you have Mr. Jamal Hill, who's in a beef with Ariel Helwani that has been very interesting for me as someone that loves the sport, but also is doing a podcast of my own and seeing how that happens, the relationships that I try to form with fighters and things like that. I'm not going to ask you your opinion on that overall, but does that beef then translate into fighters perhaps under SuckerPunch, or maybe just Jamal's friends saying, hey, look, I'm not going on that show anymore? How does that work out? Do you get a sense of that?
No, if Jamal has a beef with Ariel, then that's up to Jamal on how he wants to handle it in the future, with going on. I've known Ariel since I remember way back in the day when Ariel was this young, I don't know what he was a journalist, but he was not Ariel of today. And I remember telling him he was, he's probably going to be something in this sport because the way he handled himself at the press conferences and stuff like this was way back like WEC day.
Nice.
Can you hear my dog barking?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That annoys me.
Sounds like a big boy.
But I would also not tell any of my fighters that they can't go on Ariel's show because, he's one of the bigger outlets out there. And if you want to get some news out there, he's a great outlet for it. And kudos to Ariel. He's built himself into that position. So, my hope is that obviously everybody gets along, but for whatever reason, there's a rub with those two. And, I'm going to try to mediate the situation, but at the same time, I'm not going to put myself in a situation to have beef on either side. And obviously I'm going to support my athlete's decision.
No, I love hearing it. Mr. Brian Butler, I know that you've got to go. One last question I'm going to ask you. It's a question that I ask all my guests on the show. My mother used to ask it to me all the time growing up. Mr. Brian Butler, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you?
How happy am I?
Yeah.
I'd say I hover between an 8 and a 10 on most days.
Very, very nice. All right. That's good to know. I would think with someone of your stature and stresses that it may be difficult, but I'm glad that you are finding happiness.
Well, I mean, it's stressful. This business can have the best days and it can have the worst days, but I do always try to look at the bigger picture and, think about how fortunate I am to be able to make a living doing something that I'm passionate about, even though sometimes that passion has elements to it that can just eat parts of your soul. But, the good outweighs the bad for the most part. And, I'm always grateful that I'm one of the few that is able to do this in the manner that I do it in. So I always keep that in mind, and I'm always trying to look at the better side of things. Even in the lowest points, that's what gets me through, because I know it's just cyclical.
Brian Butler, it was an absolute honor and pleasure to have you on this podcast. I look up to you, man. Similarities, you've got comics on your wall behind you. I've got comics on my wall behind me. You're half Asian. I'm half Asian.
Oh, really? What are you?
My dad's from Hong Kong, from Macau, and my mom's
I used to live in Macau.
Yeah, see, there you go. I
was born in Kowloon.
Yeah, very nice. And my wife, when she saw you, she's like, "You guys kind of look." I'm like, "Yeah, because we're both halvesies. We got that handsome halvesy look." Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man. It's always a pleasure. I did want to let you know, because sometimes people don't know. Your athletes speak so highly of you. In all honesty, I spoke to so many, not one bad word about you. Everything was glowingly about what a good guy you are. So I think you should really be proud of yourself for that and everything you've done in the business. Thank you so much. The fans love you, man. And I hope one day we can have you back on the podcast. Please tell all your Sucker Punch Entertainment fighters to come on the Fight Insight podcast.
I will, man. And I'll tell you right now, this was a great interview. I don't do too many, but you know, your questions and your format was really well done. So yeah, it was a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All the best to you. Have a wonderful day. Take care.
You too.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. My co-host did not show up. While Mr. Brian Butler was on the interview, I was getting stuff coming from her that she was unable to show. So I'm going to end this podcast now, but we're going to see if I can't get her on. And if I do, I will loop it in here and you will never know that this was said.
A few minutes later.
And just like that, it's magic. Here we are. We just finished the interview with Mr. Brian Butler. And if you're on audio only, you won't see. But boom, right there is my guest co-host for the day. She made it. It's a day later, but she made it. Ms.
Here I am.
Jeslen Mishelle, the Wrecking. How are
Yes.
you?
I'm awesome. Thank you for letting me come on, even if it's late. I was really looking forward to coming on to your podcast, and that's not that common to feel that way.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm so happy because I've been looking to have you on for so long. And then the last couple of weeks, I was absent a co-host, so I was looking for people, and you answered the call, which was so awesome. Yesterday with Brian Butler was a little bit weird with the schedules, but you're here now, and we can end the podcast with some good talk discussion with you. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you. I like that you use answer the call, because I want that to kind of be what I represent, because I'm super motivated. I don't want to say eager because it seems like it's a little desperate, but like I'm excited. I'm excited to be part of things that I love. And like I said, your podcast seemed exciting and is legitimate, and you seem really cool. So
thank you so much for saying that. You don't have to lie so quickly on the podcast. But I do want to say before we get into everything, I normally do this after the guest leaves. So I do want to say thank you so much to Mr. Brian Butler. If you're here because of Brian Butler, please do follow and subscribe to us on our socials and on this YouTube channel. Leave comments and all that. Jeslen, you missed it. But Mr. Brian Butler, he seemed to warm up to me by the end of it. So I think things went good. I think it's good. I think I will soon have champions on this podcast. I will soon have Jamal Hill. I know it.
You won him over. Okay, Jamal, yes.
Jamal is in. That's what I'm looking for. We'll see what happens. But, you know, we have tons of guests that come on this podcast that are from Sucker Punch. And there was something funny that's happened. So this is the day after the podcast that I recorded with Brian. People listening to this, it was like 10 seconds ago. But we talked about how one of his fighters, she's a flyweight in Bellator, Jenna Bishop. She had submitted a question saying, ask Brian where my fight is. And he says, oh, like we were looking. She messaged me today and says she got her fight.
No way.
So
that's cool. Fingers
crossed. It's all contracts are all signed. But she says, hey, it happened. And I'm like, I think on the podcast. So Jenna Bishop,
definitely.
Welcome. We made it happen. We made it happen. I'm so happy.
Good job, Jenna. I think that's cool because, like, sometimes, especially someone like him, he's so busy, he's not going to be able to, like, he probably gets hit up by all kinds of fighters, like people wanting fights, and so it just goes through you. It's a good little connection you've provided.
It's positive energy. We're manifesting it into the world. I will give a shout out to some friends of the podcast. We always do this, Jeslen, and from now on, you're a friend of the podcast. So we're going to update people on your doings all the time. But I will say, good. Thank you to Rageworks Podcast Network. They're in New York, rageworksnetwork.com. We talked about them with Brian as well. Caitlin Katniss Neal, she fights for the PFL August 18th. So good luck to Katniss.
This Friday,
raise 3 fingers in the air, like Hunger Games style for Katniss. ONE FC, Friday night fights on August 18th, the same day in the morning for us here in the West. Celeste Hansen, she was the winner of Road to One. She's a Muay Thai fighter. She fights on the 18th, so good luck to her. I do want to say Marcus the Maniac McGee, he was a friend of the podcast, came on. He kicked ass last weekend at UFC in his second fight, got fight of the night bonus. Performance of the night bonus for his
performance.
knockout. Yeah. Beautiful. Marcus.
It was awesome. I never watched him before, but that was cool.
He's crazy. Do you know he made his UFC debut on like 3 days notice?
Wow.
Like,
Even more impressive.
Yeah, it was like a couple months ago he did it, and then he came on the podcast right away. The nicest dude. I mean, he's a family man. I think 2 or 3 young children. He's just like a sweet guy.
Yeah.
But so cool for him. So I'm so happy for Marcus. Congratulations. And the best news of all for a Friends of the Podcast update, 2-time guest of the podcast, Alexa Culp. She is an MMA fighter. Her boyfriend, Isaac Delgarian, he made his debut at UFC last weekend, and he won his fight. But that's not the most important part. Jeslen, the most important part, Alexa announced she is pregnant.
Oh.
They are having a baby. So congratulations to
Congratulations.
Alexa. Oh my goodness.
Power couple.
Wonderful. Power couple. That baby is going to be born with a blue belt. It's just,
yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do? Both parents are killers. So congratulations. Yeah. Jeslen, for those that don't know you, tell people, who are you? Who is the Wrecking Ball?
Jeslen is the Wrecking Ball. And I got that moniker from my first sensei, my first jiu-jitsu coach up in Sacramento, Jamie Hara. And when he told me that, I was like, is that an insult? And he's like, well, that or battering rod, the one that knocks in the door.
Battering ram? Okay, yeah.
Battering ram, that's right. He's like, well, that just doesn't sound as good as Wrecking Ball. So I think Wrecking Ball. I'm like, okay, is that an insult? Because what does it mean? He's like, when the door's unlocked, but you just kick it in anyway. And I'm like, well, that's not a smart thing to do. And he said, you know what? You'll learn how to open the door the easiest way as you go along, but you can't teach someone that gumption just to like wreck it inwards. So he was complimenting me in that way, but hopefully I have a little more finesse and technique now.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so you are a former professional wrestler, or you're currently still professional wrestling?
You could take the wrestler out of the ring, but I'll always be a professional wrestler.
Nice.
I still do little gigs here and there. Huh?
Cool. No, that's cool, because my regular co-host for the last little while is Rain Cruz. Shout out to Rain, who Ringside Rain. She's an announcer, a ring announcer for formerly independent wrestling shows, like small wrestling shows in the California area.
Yeah.
And now she's doing it for MMA organizations as well. And she is my regular co-host. So I really want to get you on with her. And one day I'll have you back as like the featured guest of the podcast, not just a co-host, because we'll talk. But yeah, like you guys share the pro wrestling.
That's awesome.
Love.
I think announcing like that, it takes a lot more skill than people realize. I mean, everyone just thinks Bruce Buffer does it like super easy. But when I would do those independent shows, there were some announcers who were terrible, and then you get one that's amazing, and it makes the whole show. And it's like on the small independent level, you just don't get it as often. So I'm sure she did a great job.
She's awesome. And can I tell you, it's not just the small shows that need help. There are some big organizations that I am shocked sometimes when I hear the announcer. Like, I apologize if you're that guy or that girl, but sometimes they are not very good. And I'm like, well, who do you know that you got this gig? Because there's a skill to it.
Exactly. Do they not realize that? Do they not know that they don't have it? Like, maybe the organization is desperate, because it isn't easy. It really is not.
No. And like, yeah, you got to know how to do your thing. Next week on the podcast, we have Derek the Cat Clark. He's the co-founder of Fight League Atlantic in East Coast Canada. He runs an organization out there, FLA, and they do MMA, jiu-jitsu, and all that. He's coming on the podcast next week because they've got some more shows coming up in September. And I am going to do a business proposal that I go out there and commentate for the show, and Rain be their announcer for at least a few of the fights. We'll see. We'll see what I can finagle in for us.
Fingers crossed to that. I think you'll get it.
Thank you.
And then if Rain has that, resume and reputation, why not? We love female announcers.
Yeah, it's very cool. And maybe I'll book you a fight there. Would you like? Do you want me to get you a title fight there? What's going on?
Absolutely. Let me. Yes. Done. I just have some paperwork to fill out to allow myself into Canada.
Oh, we can sneak you in, no problem. Our border is very insecure, Jeslen. We'll just.
Is it really?
Oh, it's fine. Yeah,
they've turned me down twice.
Oh, well, I don't know your severe criminal record, Jeslen, but I mean, we'll see. But We'll figure it out. It's fine.
It will.
Yeah,
and I have to get it taken care of anyway. It was over 15 years ago.
Oh my God. Okay. Is that like a
About-
real story? Is that a real bad story?
I was a teenager. Kind of, but I just,
right.
the first time I learned about it, even though I thought it was expunged and handled, I was trying to drive to Alaska to go to a pro wrestling school. And they kept me there for 3 hours. And then I told him the story, and he's like, all right, I want to see you pro wrestling on TV. Just get to Alaska. Don't stay in Canada. And I was like, okay.
There you go. All right. Well, so just
I hope he saw me on TV, because I was an extra on SmackDown and Raw numerous times, more than I can count or remember.
Nice.
So
very
hopefully
cool. Oh, very.
Didn't get the contract for WWE, although they did fly me out for a tryout, and they said they liked me, but they didn't have a spot for me or a character for me, and that's all right, because that was when I first started jiu-jitsu and started MMA, and I am far more in love with MMA, right? Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're totally different, but right now I want to do MMA.
Well, it's funny that you say that, and it's a beautiful segue into one of the first topics that I wanted to talk to you about when you say that they are different. Our good friend Jorge Masvidal, he was quoted, I'm going to show you this here on screen. He was quoted as saying, if the shoe fits, wear it. I'm very busy, but if the compensation makes sense, then let's do it. If WWE wants a savage like me, sign me up. I'll go over to WWE and domesticate those guys. I love fighting. If I go to WWE, I'll put a hurt on them every night. I'll torture them. I'll make life an effing hell for all of them. No one can beat me. Jeslen, I'm very worried that Masvidal does not know it's scripted.
Kayfabe, we got to maintain kayfabe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you don't know that term, look it up. But I like his promo right there. I would love to hear him say it. Yeah. But it is not like you think. I mean, the last time I did a pro wrestling show was maybe last summer here in LA, and then this year I just haven't been around. Oh, I had 2 fights this year, so I've been kind of busy, but I still get more nervous before pro wrestling fights than any MMA fight, except my first MMA fight.
That's crazy.
Yeah, just because like with fighting, you've drilled, you've trained, you want to beat this person's ass, you want to not get hit, maintain distance. There's the principles that to do to win the fight and do whatever it takes to hit, not get hit, and choke them out or whatever. Pro wrestling is that maybe, but a lot more, because there's a lot more audience interaction. There's a lot more keeping yourself safe. There's a lot more
keeping the other person safe too. Like, right?
Right.
Oh, sorry. Nope. I will edit that part out. Don't worry. I got it.
No. Please do what you do. I just can't say because I'm involved.
Wait, do you think?
But
I have the ability to edit? Do you
don't want people getting majorly hurt.
Yeah.
No, don't worry about it. It's kind of funny. Everyone knows, but it's like a joke.
Right. Okay,
I can't.
Yeah, but hold on. Okay, so okay, well, on an aside note, I did see Masvidal in AEW for a while when they were doing the stuff with, I think, American Top Team. He did go in the ring for AEW a few times, and he gave some flying knees to people. He's good. Like, he has the skill, he's got the look, so I know he can do it.
Yeah,
but
run-ins are the best. So he did like a cameo run-in type thing, but to build the match where it tells the story, and storytelling itself is a skill. But this is telling a story not with words, but with movements, like a dance, and that requires an understanding and practice. It's a craft. It's definitely a craft, is what I call pro wrestling. Whereas fighting is like an art. It's just a little bit different. So a run-in is great, and I do kind of remember, I didn't watch it, but I do kind of remember seeing his name there, and I don't keep up with fighters trying to get into pro wrestling, but that's good, because I think that when they get a taste, they realize it's a little bit different than they expected.
Yeah.
Because learning how to fall flat on your back, or jumping up in the air to fall flat on your back, they're like miniature whiplashes. It's like getting rear-ended from the back of your car at like 20 miles an hour, I think they said. It's not easy. And I mean, you fall down and do break falls in jiu-jitsu or fighting, but it's more of a roll, and you're trying to get back up. Like, this is someone lifting you up and slamming you.
Yeah.
So,
no, it's crazy. Yeah, it is crazy. I do look forward to him doing it. If he can get into it, I would be very happy for him. I don't know whether his UFC contract would prevent him from doing it. Hopefully not, because he did the AEW stuff anyways. But I hope he can do it, because I would love for him to transition, and I feel like he's got the look, he's got the personality, he has that overall character. I think he could do it, right? Like, are you happy when you see MMA fighters transitioning into it, being a pro wrestler yourself?
Yes, but mostly just to see them not be able to last. I'm just kidding. Well, here's the thing. It's a different type of toughness. That's just the bottom line. It's a different type of toughness. Like a wrestler will get a bottle smashed on his head and be gushing blood, but have to finish the match for the sake of entertainment, for the sake of the show. Whereas in fighting, the doctor will step in and be like, nope, calling it.
Right.
Or the fighter be like, oh, I can't do it. Like, I've seen more wrestlers finish their matches, broken arm, broken bone, just for this, literally for the show, not because they're trying to win. I mean, it's, whereas maybe a little bit less often in fighting, even though I know fighters have done that too.
Yeah. No, but I know.
It's for their why is different.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I like seeing Masvidal do it. I guess that's the point, like, that I just wanted to say is like, hey, Masvidal's there. He's looking at it. It seems to be in the future, and I would love for him to do it, because I think I could see great things for him. If he's given up fighting, which it seems kind of maybe he has, this would be the way to go. I think
it's a great place to fulfill your need for the fighting, because it's obviously pro wrestling and the moves came from martial arts initially, but you just got to step into more of the acting and improv. And
it's very cool. I want to see it. I just want to see it. Now,
everyone was surprised how well Ronda Rousey did. Everyone's like, oh, it's Ronda. Her debut match was awesome.
Yeah.
She had a lot of heart.
Yeah, it's amazing how some people are able to go over and do it and be successful and do well. But because it's a lot, like, it's got to be your personality. You have to have, you got to be able to sell yourself as a character as well as be able to perform. Yeah. So, but I would love to see it. Masvidal is out there. It's a possibility. Now,
well, I hope to see him. Yeah. And I think AEW is a good opportunity for him. It's a better option, I think.
Yeah. They've already set things up for him too, because he's been there before. So, the other thing I want to talk about, did you watch that BKFC fight I sent you? Did you watch it? The Bryce Hall one?
Get to it.
No? Okay. So there's an influencer named Bryce Hall. Do you know who that is at all?
No.
Okay, neither do I.
But he was in that fight.
So there's this influencer. I have no idea what he does. I was kind of hoping you would know who he is, because I'm not researching this. But so he's some young kid. That's fine. It's fine. He's some. It's more real when we both have no clue who this guy is. And that just shows like how weird this world is, right? There's these guys that have like millions and millions of followers and nobody knows who this is. So
I know, isn't that crazy?
It really is. So there's this kid. Meanwhile, you and I are like the coolest people on the planet. You know what I mean? And this podcast isn't getting millions of views. Not yet. So this kid, Bryce Hall, goes to BKFC, which BKFC is insane. It's crazy for you to do this. Right?
Yeah.
So he goes in and he fights this guy, G Perez. Do you know Guy Perez at all? G Perez? G-E-E? I just want to make sure that in case I say anything bad, you're not offended. So,
no, I wouldn't be offended anyway.
So this guy, G Perez, who looks pretty cool, man. This guy looks like he's going to kill this kid. And he's cutting the promos and saying, like, I am going to destroy you. I'm going to cut your face. I'm going to punish you. They go in and start the fight. And immediately the influencer kid kind of gets a knockdown on him, but it's kind of like he kind of just rushes him and pushes him down. Okay, fine. G Perez gets up, and you can see this fight on YouTube. It's free, so you don't even have to do anything on the Bare Knuckle page.
I'm going to watch it right after this.
Yeah, you have to. So then they get into a bit of a scuffle. Guy is kind of picking him apart a little bit. The influencer kid grabs him and double leg takedowns him, which is really weird. But what's even weirder, Jeslen, estimate how many times have you been on the receiving end of a takedown, double leg takedown?
In training, a lot.
Like a million times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Countless.
Yeah. This guy Guy Perez gets up and he's, oh, my neck, oh, my, like really playing it up that his neck is like busted. And I'm like, I've never seen anyone take so much damage from a double leg takedown.
Yeah.
You know? And he's really playing it up. The camera doesn't show any replays that seem to suggest anything. Then they keep fighting. And then all of a sudden, the Guy guy has his arm go limp. I don't know what happens. The camera doesn't explain anything. The commentators don't explain anything. And he suddenly like got like a limp arm. It is the weirdest thing ever. He goes into his corner. He comes out for the next round. He's essentially one-handed. And he's still fighting. And then that round ends. And he doesn't come out for the next round and he quits. It is the weirdest fight I've ever seen. I don't know where this guy got the injury from. I don't know why the double leg takedown hurt his neck so badly. Jeslen, it would, I mean, if there was some shady business, I pray there's not. And I don't think BKFC would be behind it at all. But like, if there was some sort of shady business, it was the weirdest thing ever. Just strange.
That is strange. Thank you for telling me in detail about that, since I didn't get to watch it, because that is fascinating. And so the only thing I can think of, because I have had shoulder issues that came from my neck. And then sometimes the neck would create this numbness and tingling in my arm. So one time I hit my head and it pinched it, and it sent this shock down to my arm, and I couldn't move it for 10 seconds. But my neck was sore for a long time, and that kind of contributed to my shoulder issues. Anyway, that's the only thing I can think of. But with the double leg takedown, I mean, what did he do? How did it get? Yeah.
You know what?
I mean,
you're genius. Are you a medical expert at all in your training?
I have sustained so many injuries. I've learned so much. I know. I've seen all kinds of therapists. I'm just giving the benefit of the doubt, who knows, but who knows? I just don't see how a double leg could hurt the neck like that necessarily, but maybe he's not a grappler type and doesn't know what it's like to get taken down and did something stupid. Like, they're the stupidest things that can happen.
You're okay.
But that's the only thing I can think of.
I think you may have hit the nail on the head here. I think maybe he got like a pinched nerve or something, and it might have like numbed his arm or something like that. Maybe that's how it all fell into place. Because meanwhile, Jeslen, I'm here, conspiracy theorist Tim, and I'm like, fraud, he's throwing the fight for this influencer kid. Like, what's going on? Like, I'm so upset
that there's some shady stuff. I mean, that's probably highly likely too, but I give people the benefit of the doubt just because I'm a little too optimistic, and I don't think I get taken advantage of, but I definitely have been proven wrong that people are not in it for the right genuine reasons, full of integrity. But I'm going to try to pretend that they are at first.
Yeah. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking like, God dang it, this is fraud. Like, this is crazy. We need to investigate this. I did see one video though that I'm going to play for you that really turned the tide for me for this Bryce kid though, which now makes me think, okay, it might not be fake, because I'm like, for him to say this was pretty cool. And so I'm going to play this quick video of Mr. Bryce Hall. And this is after the fight. This is after the fight. He's won now as a result of this weird injury. And they ask him, do you think you were going to win this fight if not for the injury? And here's his answer.
No, I wouldn't have won that if that went the distance or anything like that. He said what he was going to do. He's going to cut my face up. And he did. I injured him, so I got lucky.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
I think that was a very nice, honest answer. I liked it.
Yeah. He seemed pretty excited too, like it was expected. I can't wait to watch it. Yeah. Those fights. But wait, if he double legged him in the bare knuckle fight?
Oh yeah, no, that's totally illegal.
Right. So why did this? I don't know how the rules are in that. Like, did he just get points taken?
Nope. No, they're just like, oh, this is an influencer kid. He doesn't know what's happening. Let's just stand him back up and let's go. Like, it was,
really?
It was like, I think they were kind of like, they got into the clinch. He talks about it after. He goes, yeah, I was getting punched or something, so I just took him down by instinct. I guess he's a college wrestler or something. But I think now, mind you, it doesn't matter all the history you have. I mean, you got to know you're in a boxing fight. You can't do that. But it's not like he picked him up and slammed him or anything. Like, he just he just fell down. It is
true. Instinctively, if your body's been used to that, then it's going to do that.
Yeah. So that was the thing. But anyways, very interesting. If you know who Bryce Hall is, and if you're a fan of his, leave some comments down below, because I have no clue who this kid is. But I just thought the kid came out there. Kudos to him. I mean, geez Louise, taking an MMA fight, I feel, is less dangerous than going out and taking a bare knuckle fight.
I agree.
And he's a pretty boy. Like, he's a good looking kid. So like the chance of you getting shredded up were pretty good. Good for him. But yeah, so crazy that people are doing that as like something for fun, Boy, oh boy, that is not. And he was fighting a guy who's like a legit BKFC fighter. Like, he wasn't fighting another schlub.
Right,
he was taking a legit fight. So it was pretty crazy. But
that is really crazy.
Yeah.
Well, good for him. I can't wait to check him out.
Yeah, check it out. Check out the fight. What else is going on here? So what is news with you? You won your fight recently. Was it a month ago now?
Yes, almost a month and 30 pounds ago.
Okay. And so what is, congratulations, first of all. Amazing.
Thank you.
And what is the plan for you moving forward? What's the plan for your future?
Well, I want to comment on that fight because it was so magical, because magic is real, right? It's just energy. So everything that exists is because of our thoughts and our words. And all I know is the fight I had before that, which was my first loss in 5 amateur fights, and it was my 3rd professional fight. I had a loss to something really ridiculous that not even black belts get me with, which is a rear naked choke that was on the side. I actually felt comfortable when it happened. But the whole camp leading up to it, I was just not in my mind. I couldn't focus. I was distracted. I wasn't on my daily practices. And the fight really displayed how my fight camp went. Oh, my weight cut was terrible. It was challenging. It was the hardest weight cut. But then I lost. And I never had that kind of feeling. I don't want to be all dramatic, but it's a different feeling. It sucks. And it's funny because I could have had the fight go the exact same way, but had won it, maybe like that first round been the same, and then somehow I won it, right? But people had to comment on the first round, which I was winning. I lost in the second round. I was winning the first round, but people commented on it as if that had something to do with my loss. But if I won the fight, they would have loved that first round for me. It's always like, if you win, everything you did was great. If you lose, you could have done everything better, which is true. But sometimes they just get lucky.
Right.
And I think that was lucky because I wasn't prepared mentally. So I had switched gyms and I was still new to my new gym. I didn't really feel settled, but I got to Extreme Couture after that fight and I felt way more focused and way more motivated because of a loss. And I got this new fight and I had the most amazing camp, and the coaches there are just phenomenal. I feel like what I've learned this year at Extreme Couture is what most gyms could teach me in over a year. So that's only several months at Extreme. I feel like I've learned a year and a half's worth. And yeah, it's a high level, and I'm glad I wasn't there earlier. I just would not have been ready. It would have been far too high level for me, but now I'm ready. So everything that happened in this recent fight in Las Vegas was everything we drilled and everything I envisioned. My manager and coach said everything they called, I did, which I'm actually an excellent listener. I love listening. I listen to podcasts. I learn by listening really well. And I don't remember hearing them. I just probably turned it to where I dial in. I also have a hypnotherapist that would give me the key words that my coach uses and sink that into my subconscious so I can envision what I'm doing when I hear those words, like Pablo's dog. It's very effective. And so it was just too easy and beautiful. So now people are like, oh, well, she wasn't that challenging of an opponent. She had over 50 Muay Thai fights. Like
Right.
she wasn't weak by any means, but she was scared. And I could sense that, like, there's something mentally that wasn't there, but mine was. And that's really what it comes down to, I think. The fight that I lost, they did a good job at keeping their fighter, my opponent, away from my, where I'm strong is usually in presence and mental. And the fact that they didn't let her see me at all, where I could like flex my nuts and like do what, intimidation things fighters do, they kept me from doing that. So I didn't have that little leg up. Even when I was across from her in the cage, usually we make eye contact. And that's like really important. Like when you're staring at each other right before the bell rings and someone looks away. It's never been me. But they didn't let her look at me at all. The bell rang and then she turned around and we went in. So there's like really cool, but not cool for me because I don't like it. It kind of threw me off, but really cool, like things that you learn about how strong the mental element of it is, right? So this last opponent wasn't a chump, but she was scared, and I don't know what she had going on, but I guess she retired after the fight. I just thought it was really cool that I felt so certain in my practice that my muscle memory just took over and did everything that we trained. And
That's awesome.
what's really cool is the last time I was in that venue was a few years before. And this is just how all over the place my life is, which is a good thing. But thanks to martial arts, I've learned some discipline and focus. The last time I was in that venue, I was go-go dancing a gig for New Year's Eve.
Well, from go-go dancing to kicking ass, that's the life of a wrecking ball, Like
that's right.
Just smashing things, man. No, I'm really happy for you, and I do think people often say when they're talking, how nerds talk all the time online, they're talking about goats and stuff like that. And then if you throw someone out with a loss, they're like, oh, this can't be a goat because they lost. I always prefer to see people who can come back from adversity. And I feel like that is such a better judge of character, such a better test of character, that I always appreciate people. And I'm so proud of them when they're able to bounce back. And it's not just in fighting, it's just in life, like you get knocked down, you got to get back up. And I feel like that's more a judge of someone's character than if you go undefeated, if you have a silver spoon in your mouth your whole life and you don't really have to overcome adversity. I think that's just such a big thing. So I'm so proud of you for that. I saw that you were undefeated leading up to that one fight and then you bounced back. So it's amazing.
Yeah. And not just bounce back, but bounce back with, I felt for the first time, which was a goal with pro wrestling. I felt for the first time I was flowing, like I was in the flow, the term, and I always wanted to find that with everything, even pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is still a challenge to find that, but this was an easy fight as I did that.
Yeah, it's incredible. So then what is next? I'm glad that you're there. You're at Extreme Couture. What's on the horizon?
What is next? Well, my manager said that night he was contacted by 3 other promotions to have me fight. And I was like, I don't want to think about it. Right. And he said, no, we'll talk about it another time. But I knew, and I was really happy it worked out, I knew I wanted to go to the biggest motorcycle rally in the world because it's something that I hold dear to me, which is Sturgis. This is my 4th year going. I initially went the first year. I've always wanted to go, but I ended up being able to get a job there. And then it just became a job every year because it made me the boss and told me to bring my girlfriends. So I was just bartending with my girlfriends, but also the boss. But anyhow, I knew I wanted to go there again and run the bar. And I just came home from that. I'm exhausted. It was fun, as always. And I got to ride a motorcycle on my own for once. Nice. So now I'm going to talk to my manager and see where we're at. I'm staying in LA to train at another awesome gym, Black House, while I'm here. And that's mostly because Vegas is unbearable in the summer and my animals can't go outside. Yeah. So I'm just going to keep training, keep in touch. I need to get in touch with my manager and hopefully get a fight in this fall. before this year, actually it was after my first 2 pro fights last year, we were talking to Bellator about 145 and they were interested and they offered something, nothing official. So I think we're supposed to reach out to them, but we'll see.
Yeah, well,
I just got back, so I have to catch up.
Yeah, like who knows? Because with Bellator, I mean, I tried to squeeze it out of Brian Butler at the beginning of this podcast, but I was asking him, I'm like, so is Bellator gone or what? He definitely kind of hinted that PFL is buying them 100%.
Buying them.
And that he has no clue whether Bellator is going to remain in existence or not. But
exactly.
Fingers crossed. Brian and I were both saying we hope that they keep Bellator as a separate entity because it's an established brand. It gives fighters more opportunities, right? More organizations to fight for. So it'd be wonderful. But yeah, go ahead.
You broke up on me a little bit. I couldn't hear that last part.
No, I apologize. Go ahead. You were going to say something. Is the audio bad?
You're frozen.
All right. This system I've been using has not been fantastic. I don't know what's happening. Sometimes my mouth, it's like moving, like, and the audio is a little bit off. I apologize to the viewers. Can you hear me now? Are we okay?
I can hear you. Oh, you froze. Now you're unfroze. Okay, yeah, I didn't want to say anything about the Bellator because I didn't know, but that's what I had heard as well. So that's kind of why I was just waiting to get in contact with my manager. I'll probably call him tonight now that I'm motivated and home and with energy. But yeah, I hope it stays separate too.
Yeah.
Like who, like it's great to have these options, but if the options are one, merge into one, then you have less options. Like they had their own unique way about them, like every promotion.
Right. Yeah. We've always heard the positives, negatives of both organizations, of the different types of contracts that Bellator or UFC may do. So, or other organizations. So yeah, there's lots of opportunity for you as well. ONE FC is coming over to the Western market. So maybe ONE FC is in your future. We never know. I don't know if you can hear me. I apologize, Jeslen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you now. What was that last?
Okay.
Those last
I was just saying that ONE FC be an option too, because as ONE FC maybe fills the void if Bellator. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Just the rules are a lot different.
Yeah. Well, you got to knee some people in the head when they're on the ground.
Yeah,
you got to practice.
It might be fun.
Yeah, it will be. Do you know? It's funny. I'm going to end with this because we're running deep into time. But one of the things I find that when people are fighting at ONE FC is that they'll have the person on the ground and I feel like they forget they can knee them to the head.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it and I'm like,
yeah, you don't really train it because you don't want to hurt your training partners.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, Jeslen, I'm going to end the podcast here because maybe if our connection's getting bad. So I just want to say, Jeslen Mishelle, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Thank you for saving me and being my great guest co-host. I can't wait to have you back. I'm going to have you back maybe when I have better connection. I'm so sorry. But, it's been great to meet you. I love being able to talk about the different things that we were able to talk about. I wish you all the best. We will continue to follow your career forever. We will tell the fans, viewers, and listeners all about you and whatever's happening with you. I have your Instagram at the bottom. It's at BodySlammingQueen333. Go follow Jeslen Mishelle on Instagram. Jeslen, thank you so much for joining the podcast. I'm sorry the connection is bad, but if you can hear me, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I can't wait for the next one.
All right. Take care, Jeslen. Bye-bye.